Welcome to the John Ligato Experience. Today's show is yet another example of the decay in America. It deals with wokeness. Now, I've obviously heard the term woke, W-O-K-E, and had a general idea of its meaning, but let's dig deeper. To be woke generally means to beware of social injustices. And the first question I had is, who gets to determine the social injustices? At any rate, to be woke is to feel guilty about life, about everything. And even Catholics don't rise to this level of guilt.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility for every unchecked moment.
For every time it was easier to ignore than to call it out for what it was.
Every not so funny joke. Every unfair stereotype.
Every blatant injustice, no matter how big or small.
Every time I remained silent.
Every time I explained away police brutality. Or turned a blind eye.
These affluent white folks are easing their guilt by taking responsibility for every perceived wrong in our history, by redefining what constitutes a social injustice. Woke folks are setting the standards on what constitutes an off-color joke, or what words we are no longer allowed to use, like boy or girl or looter. What they are is in the business of changing our culture, and the best way to do this is to control our language by censoring words that they deem unacceptable. The rest of us are no longer allowed to express our social injustices. To me, it's unjust when someone demands that I believe that a man with a penis is a woman. It's unjust to believe that Black lives matter more than my family's lives, which include Korean daughters, a Swedish wife, my Italian sister, and 2 gay white cousins. It's unjust for a few language victims to cancel Dr. Seuss, or for Marvel Comics or DC Comics to portray Captain America and Superman as gay. I accept their right to feel that way, but I also have a right to feel that they're wrong, without attempting to destroy or cancel them personally. The woke culture's double standard is so blatant.
On the same sort of topic here, DuckDuckGo said no, but when I reapplied as a black lesbian who can't speak English, they wanted me.
I went to go pick up this gift from the district thinking maybe I was already pretty insulted by it, but I wanted to see what it was. And so I went and picked it up from the district because we were, of course, teaching online the whole year. And I got this, I picked up the gift, and here it is right here. In it was, of course, the Black Educators Matter mask, which I would never wear in front of my students. Imagine if someone wore a white Educators Matter mask. This is also a political statement, by the way. Obviously, Black people matter, all lives matter, but when you see this is a political statement.
Okay. Now let's turn to how this woke culture is a threat to national security. I served in Vietnam with the Marines in 1967-68. My company was the initial reaction force in the way during Tet. We were attacked by several NVA battalions, and half of our company was dead and wounded by the time we reached the city. It was total chaos. And I can assure you that critical race theory never entered our minds.
How do you take one strong, vibrant leaders of the greatest fighting force in the world, greatest fighting force we've ever seen, and turn them into pansies? What you do is you threaten their careers because generals become politicians and they don't like losing power. You demand they either get on board or they'll be fired. Look what happened to the commander of the Space Force. They fired Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer when he bashed critical race theory, this idea that everything America does is steeped in racism. That sent a message to all top brass in the military. Team Biden's warning was this: do not cross us, as we fundamentally try to transform the military from battle-tested warriors to pawns in a social experiment.
Social experiment is a bad thing when you lower the standards of the skills required in combat. We veterans require very few things, and surprisingly, your race or sexual orientation or gender are not even on our list. We want to know if you'll fight the fight. We want to know if you can hump all day in the jungle heat or Arctic cold carrying 70 pounds of equipment. And most of all, we want to know if you have the physical ability to carry or drag my ass out of harm's way if I'm wounded.
You know, I'm very proud to be a West Point graduate, and in my opinion, it is the leading leadership institution of the entire world. And I can tell you that I entered the military at a time of war. I'm a West Point graduate class of 2004, and I can assure you that we were not concerned with the color of one's skin when we left West Point. We were concerned with being the best warfighter we can be to ensure that our fellow soldiers to our left and to our right made it home safely and made it home alive, and we were proficient and adjutant in how we did our job. That's the only thing that really mattered to us. And we got to be really careful with what we are going to teach to our future generation of warriors. It's not about race. It's about proficiency. It's about maintaining the meritocracy that is our United States military. And I think this is actually an ultimate effort to defund our military. We see this push to defund the police along military lines. We've seen this push for critical race theory. Now they're going after our military. It's got to stop.
June 6, 2020 was the day when 15 or so FBI agents knelt in supplicant before a large group of Black Lives Matter protesters. That image is seared into my brain and was a slap in the face of the agents that I served with. It's a new generation. But, and this is a big but, FBI agents must be non-political. Every one of those agents eventually knelt before a group of Black Lives Matters, who are at the very least a politically active organization who despise law enforcement and many American values. BLM founder Patrice Cullors has stated that she believes in Marxism and wants to abolish prisons, police departments, and get rid of borders. The act of kneeling reeks of cowardice. I can assure you that criminals became emboldened by this image. And believe me, it's not a stretch. And future court cases involving radical groups will allow defense attorneys to raise reasonable doubt about the FBI's independence. The bottom line is that the new FBI's awakening has tainted them as weak and biased. Just for the record, if my supervisor ordered me to kneel before anyone outside of a church pew, I and every FBI agent I knew would refuse. The FBI and Justice Department has recently added soccer moms to their domestic terrorist lists. Prepare to meet Sharana Bishop, a real desperado who attended one too many school board meetings.
Well, I'm a mother first, and I mean, that's what I wanted to be when I grew up, was a mom. And my children were in public school for a short amount of time in Mesa County, and I was exposed to things that I weren't aware of was happening. It just began to kind of prick my interest, and I wanted to know why they were doing what they were doing and how things could be better. What launched my activism, if you will, was my daughter was given a mental health evaluation without my permission and actually against my consent. And at the time, that was still illegal in the state of Colorado. Now, that's not illegal anymore for 12-year-olds and up, but at that time it was. And sure enough, when I picked up my daughter, she got in the car and told me she thought she was depressed. And that's really where I began wondering, what can I do? This is crazy. This is not education. And that was about 5 years ago now. And I just began figuring out policy and trying to understand how to communicate with administrators and who's running this show. Because as a regular parent, I didn't even know the role of the school board. I didn't know who was doing what and where this was all coming down from. So I educated myself very quickly and began asking a lot of questions.
Now we'll get to the FBI raid when a battering ram greets a family having breakfast. As a retired FBI agent who executed many warrants, I can assure you that these actions were pure intimidation, and the claim of security issues was BS. She's a soccer mom, no previous arrest. Her husband has worked for the criminal justice system for 20 years, and her 4 kids were on the honor roll and yes sir, no sir types.
Yeah, we were in the middle of school. We get started about 8 o'clock, so it was 9:30 when we heard pounding on the door. And we have neighborhood kids, so I thought it might be the neighborhood kids, but they would not stop. And right about when I looked around the corner to see who was at the door. They started yelling it was the FBI. Still in my pajamas, because when you homeschool, your life is just very calm. And, it's a little easier. And I went in the kitchen where my boys were doing their work and said, let's go, get in your rooms. I walked them to their bedroom and said, just stay here. I don't know what's going on. And I really don't have any idea what's going to happen. So just stay here and don't come out for now. At that point, my husband had come up from his office and he met me in our entryway where the front door is. And he just said, it's okay. I was starting to,
Of course.
I'm standing there just thinking, I can't even believe this. I don't even know what to do. I have no idea what this is going to look like under Merrick Garland's DOJ. I've heard so much. I'm very familiar with the October 4th mandate or memo/mandate to make parents domestic terrorists. And I really have no idea what's going to happen. And
so let's go back to they come in.
They didn't just come in.
Did they bust the door down, or did they open the door, or did they wait for you to open it up?
No, it was less than a minute, and my husband was just about to the door to open it. They used a battering ram to bust my door open, broke the door. And the funniest thing about this is the door wasn't even locked. They could have turned the handle, and instead they took a battering ram to my door. My husband was in front of me. They had their guns drawn.
Goodness.
He's a peacemaker, and immediately just started calming the situation down. He was just like, whoa, 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 everything's fine. We were coming to the door, relax. And it's a good thing he did. I had my phone in my hand trying to call our attorney, and because I didn't know what to do. I don't know what my rights are in this moment. You're kind of like going black. You have no idea.
Unbelievable.
What's going to happen. And they grabbed my phone, grabbed my arm, pulled it behind my back, and restrained me, put me in handcuffs.
Put you in handcuffs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Goodness.
And I stood out there.
And then how long were you in handcuffs?
About a good half an hour.
Oh my goodness.
They
Did they rifle through your home?
Say that again.
Did they go through your home to get something?
So we stood out there, my husband and I. They had pulled us out through the front door, and we waited outside. Our children are still inside. They're not with us. My boys are in their room. My daughter's sitting upstairs because she's hearing all this ruckus.
Oh my!
And they proceeded to go through our entire home, saying they were clearing the home and making sure that there was nothing else to be worried about. And they would unhandcuff me once they had done that.
So,
I live in a very small community on purpose, and I love this community. I have relationships with law enforcement.
Unbelievable.
This is this type of treatment that you reserve for criminal offenders, for violent offenders, for people who are doing drug and human trafficking, not a mom who speaks out against her school board, and certainly not in this way.
A footnote on this raid. One of the FBI agents grabbed the hood of Sharona's 18-year-old daughter, who asked for her phone, which was downstairs. The agent dragged her down the steps holding her hoodie and dragged her back up. This new and woke FBI seems to have their priorities all screwed up. Radical groups can riot, occupy sections of American cities, loot, burn, and pillage. Yet they kneel before one radical group and then terrorize a suburban family with battering rams. I am ashamed of my FBI. If you liked our show today, hit share, like, and a bell. The John Ligato Experience is being broadcast from outside the gates of Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune in beautiful North Carolina. Semper Fidelis.